I want to give you a little bit of backstory behind my history with this series. You see, it all started in 2008 when I had discovered this series of YouTube videos called Arby and the Chief, and one of them had Master Chief playing this game I had never heard of called Devil May Cry 4, because Halo 3 was lagging because he was downloading so much porn. Okay, maybe that's a bit too far. Okay, let's take this someplace a bit more recent. So in 2018, I saw the Wii U Bayonettas were just sitting on my shelf and I was itching to give them a go. I sucked ass at them. I had to play them on easy because normal was giving me too much shit, but God, I love these games anyway. Before then, the most complex action game I had played was fucking Batman Arkham Knight, so playing something that wasn't as handholdy and felt way more exciting was amazing. Well, okay, there was also Metal Gear Rising, but I honestly just kind of fumbled through that one. That same year, I got into the Yakuza series, a nice in-between of the cathartic simplicity I liked about the Arkham games and the complexity I loved about Bayonetta. It wasn't just hit the attack button and sometimes dodge like in Batman, nor was it perfecting your combo strings like in Bayo. It was just what I needed to figure out how to play a game like this. At this point, I felt it was safe to say I was a fan of the hack-and-slash beat-em-up genre. I heard the Devil May Cry series, also created by base Hideki Kamiya, was really good. I saw they were all on sale on Steam, so I bought them all, and then, as you would expect, I didn't touch them. For a long, long while. DMC5 was announced. I didn't know who Nero was, so I thought this guy was Dante before Twitter educated me on that. And then I forgot it existed. Early 2019, Astral Chain was announced. It looked sick as fuck, so I bought it, I played it, and loved it to death. Dante was also a commonly brought up name in Smash speculation at the time, and still is to this day. A teaser of DMC news being given to us the same day of a Smash reveal only made people more excited for the possibilities. It wasn't until then that I decided, you know what, maybe now I should get around to playing these games. I'm sure they'll be a lot of fun. I booted up DMC1, gave it a full swing, and my impressions were as follow.
Why can't I swing my sword in midair? Why isn't there a dodge button? Why do I need to lock on for so many things? Why is there platforming, puzzle solving, and non-linear progression in this game? Why does it take so long to unlock more shit? Why is the space area section more fun than the actual game? How'd I beat this game? What secret missions?
Then, after having reported my experience to series veterans,
why do you have to die to unlock the easy mode?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I don't hate this game, it wasn't terrible, and it was just varied enough that I didn't get bored to death. While I never expected it to be as deep or polished as Bayonetta, it just wasn't as great as I hoped. I played DMC2 despite people's warnings, found it was just as bad as people said it was, then I played DMC3 and I enjoyed it plenty despite how much it frustrated me. Then I fell in love with DMC4, mainly because easy mode is selectable from the start, and Nero is way more fun to me than Dante. And then I got into DMC5, loved it even more, considered it a goddamn masterpiece, and then accidentally ended up 100%ing the game. I would call DMC5 the easiest in the series, as it's more forgiving with mission ranks, has more cheese to exploit, and doesn't have any moronic enemy or level design. But even so, I think giving it so much time has made me understand and appreciate this gameplay formula a lot more. Since then, I even revisited Bayonetta to see how I'd stack up after all this time, and I've actually gotten kind of good at it since then. DMC4 as well, I can play much better even without the improvements you get in 5. See, I'm not as inept to video games as some of you may think. When I first tried DMC1, I figured the main reason I didn't like it was because I was already exposed to bigger and better action games that have come out since then. But now, I'm starting to think it may also be because I didn't have a firm enough grasp on how you play a game like this. I mean, look at how bad I was fighting Virgil on human difficulty compared to how well I can destroy him on Dante Must Die after 200 hours. Maybe all I needed to enjoy DMC1 was a better understanding of the game's mechanics and how to use them to my advantage. Hey, I used to hate fighting games because quarter circles were too galaxy-brained for my pea-brained head. Now I'm slightly above brain dead with BlazBlue. Given all the knowledge and experience I've amassed since my first go at this game, I think it deserves a second chance. I think I'll forego the option of dying on purpose to trigger easy mode, especially considering doing so will force you into automatic mode, which simplifies and automates the combat. And unlike in Bayonetta, you can't turn it off. I think I got a good enough grasp to play through it again on normal without too much trouble. Now, does this look familiar to you? Walking slowly through corridors with odd fixed camera angles? The right stick doesn't even help with the camera, it just makes you taunt. You see, that's because this game was originally called Rockman, and had its name changed to Super Mario Bros. 2 to be more marketable to the West. Yes, I know it began development as Resident Evil 4, don't bother commenting. While this opening section may be a turnoff to many people, I'm okay with it. For one major reason, there wasn't really any other game like this. Like, for real, the game industry had yet to realize a decent formula for a 3D action game in 2001. The closest thing we had was Ocarina of Time and maybe Onimusha, but that's still heavily leaned into the Resident Evil formula. Most games didn't really try much more than, say, Mystical Ninja Goemon, where all you really do is just walk up to an enemy and hit the attack button. Hideki Kamiya wanted to take that addicting, satisfying experience from a game like Final Fight or Streets of Rage and translate it into 3 dimensions. And now that we've gotten past this door asking for red orbs, we can see how that was accomplished. Okay, so you use basic sword attacks with triangle and you use square to fire your guns. And you have to hold R1 to lock on in order to use them, or the button does nothing. Unless you're in the air, in which case they'll fire just fine, locked on or not. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't really have an issue with guns being underpowered anymore, as they're not really meant to be a major tactic in taking enemies down and exist more so as supplemental damage and hit stun. They're not your main tools in dealing damage, they're there to continue your combos. Though getting combos isn't the most intuitive thing in the world because, well, let's look at your available sword attacks. You have combo A, just triangle 3 times, then you have the million stab combo where you pause after the second attack, and you also have this other twirly combo where you pause after the second attack as well? Except, no, you have to make a briefer pause than when you go for the million stab. Was there really no other way they could have done this? While I wasn't too keen on them my first go at this game, I like delay attacks as a concept. It rewards you for being careful with how you press the button and discourages you from just button mashing. But having 2 separate attacks which you initiate with extremely similar inputs, which aren't clear on how you differentiate between the two, isn't exactly what I would call sensical. Anyway, then we have X as the jump button, which, when locked on and moving sideways, is a dodge roll. I used to really dislike this, wishing that it were more like Astral Chain and Bayonetta, where dodging was its own button, but I'm over it. It's not really too different from how dodging in Yakuza works, the main difference being that doing it forwards or backwards would still be a jump, but that's not much of a big deal because jumping acts as a dodge anyway. You just watched me show off my Nero skills, and Nero can't even trickster dodge. DMC1 Dante may not have Table Hopper, but I'm fine with this. Oh, but there's also High Time, an attack which launches an enemy upwards. Hold the button down and you launch yourself up with them. Now what do you do when you're up here? If you're familiar with the modern 3D action game, you think you just go to town on them with your sword, but nope. Hitting triangle in midair just does the Helmbreaker, slashing directly downward. This is something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around, and it would remain series tradition until TMC5 introduces Devil Sword Dante. While I really didn't like it and I wish there were more you could do while in midair, I'm a lot more forgiving of it now upon a simple realization. Swinging your sword while airborne in a 3D action game wasn't much of a concept yet. In fact, this was likely inspired by Link's jump attack in Ocarina of Time, but instead of it being its own input, you jump then attack, allowing the player more freedom and control in how they execute it. At the start of the game, it's fine. It works for what it is and accomplishes what it's going for. That is, until you start running into enemies who can fly and you can't just jump to a higher part of the stage to get to them. I'll have more to say about enemy and level design later. Play a bit longer and you also get the Stinger attack, an absolutely essential move used to close the distance while also landing an attack that pushes them away. All DMC beginners, don't spam this. As tempting as it is to just relentlessly Stinger into every enemy you see, it's inefficient and is only gonna get you killed. To top it all off, there's Devil Trigger, a stronger state you can strategically shift in and out of with the simple press of L1. High Time and Stinger are both executed using the lock-on feature, which is a nice thing to have. So why does this game have this annoying-ass auto-lock-on when I'm not holding R1? I don't even know how it prioritizes certain enemies over others, it just acts however it wants. Worst part is, it limits how I can tackle combat as it takes away the player's agency on where they want to aim their attacks. The manual lock-on was there from the start, what was the goddamn point of this? Again, referring back to Ocarina of Time, we had an example of how to do this. If you're locked on, you attack towards the enemy, if not, you attack wherever you're pointing. All in all, as clunky, janky, and simplistic as combat is, it's not too bad and admittedly can be kind of fun. I don't need to have something as varied and free-flowing as the later games in the series, nor do I need something as flashy and impactful as a game from Platinum. As mentioned before, this was meant to be a 3-dimensional translation of a 2D brawler, and despite its flaws, I think this combat system works okay enough for what it is. Something I don't quite get is that you start out with Force Edge, and then on the very second mission, you unlock Alistair, an objectively better sword which is faster, more powerful, and can be upgraded between levels or at divinity statues. Was there really any point for this? Yeah, I know the Force Edge has lore significance, I mean, why have Alistair? Wouldn't it have been easier to just let Force Edge have all these abilities available as purchasable upgrades, rather than introduce it and immediately replace it with a direct upgrade this early in the game? Well, anyway, another thing you'll immediately notice upon getting into the game is that it's not a series of linear levels which are all broken up into their own spaces. Rather, it's all one interconnected world, and each mission is just one step further towards the end goal. This was another thing I found off-putting given my addiction to Platinum games at the time, but it's also another thing I've come to accept. It isn't difficult to traverse the place, and using miscellaneous story items to open paths isn't too hard to figure out. Usually it only takes a little bit of observation and elementary deductive reasoning to connect the dots and figure out where to go next. And even if you somehow get lost, you can always open up your map and have your destination pointed out to you. So while I am a bigger fan of the linear fashion DMC5 would adopt, I have no complaints with this style of progression, especially considering it doesn't really break the game's pace. What does break the game's pace, however, is these stupid-ass platforming sections. Alistair also has the air hike upgrade available for purchase, but that hardly mitigates this bullshit. Who the fuck thought these stupid-ass fixed camera angles and stiff controls would make for good platforming? God damn it, I fell off again! Now we know where Sonic Unleashed got the idea. Fight through some more puppet dudes who all play Half-Life 1 sounds when they get hit for some reason. And we're at the first boss, this lava scorpion guy. You've likely heard stories about children getting to this point, not knowing what to do, dying over and over again, rage quitting, and then finding out you can literally just spam shotgun blasts and helmbreakers to win. Oh, shotguns, right, didn't even mention that. While Dante doesn't get crazy weapons like a transforming suitcase, elemental dual broadswords, or a motorcycle chainsaw, he does get a handful of extra guns you can switch to. While your starting pistols, Ebony and Ivory, are generally the best for keeping your combos going, the shotgun's nice to get enemies off you, the grenade launcher is good for splash damage at a distance, Nightmare B is something, I don't know, I never really used this one, and the needle gun is used exclusively in these handful of underwater sections. Besides swords, there is one other melee weapon, Ifrit, a fiery punchy weapon that lets you hold down triangle on each attack to charge up and make it even stronger. I found this one a lot more fun to use than Alistair at first, but that fun wore out upon realizing it doesn't have any equivalent to Stinger, and you can't air hike with this thing. It's also the one weapon you're required to use in a specific section to progress, and it's honestly beyond me why they did that. It's pretty hilarious to me that many of the story progression items are swords, staffs, and lances, but the flavor text outright says you can't use them as weapons. I really don't get why they chose unusable weapons as key items to connect points A and B, but whatever, it's fun to think about. Oh, what's this? Quicksilver? Does it let you stop time with the push of a button? Ha, you wish. Beyond the lanky loser stuff with bowling pins, you'll be facing enemies such as Scissor Ghosts who can fly through walls, something that never ceases to be annoying despite how easy they are when within attacking range. Spiders and flies plaguing the sewers, little bitty lizards with little bitty shields, floating skulls, yep. Actually, Pauline, they're called marionettes, sin scissors, and blades. Yeah, buddy, clearly I'm no DMC lore master, but feel free to date all the girls who dumped me because I didn't know the names of their favorite video game enemies. These dudes are all fine and dandy, but when you get into the second half of the game, you'll start running into these bastards who can fly all over the damn place while also launching you into the skybox with these stupid pillar things, electric bats who can copy Dante's moves while also cloning themselves if you don't kill them quick enough, and fucked up abominations that can lay eggs which will sprout into more that you have to fight. Granted, they are used sparingly, but I still dread having to deal with these sons of bastards anyway. Fighting bosses isn't the most enticing thing in the world. The aforementioned Scorpion boss follows you into later levels to chase you down, but then you gotta fight him again to kill him for realsies. I don't think the fight is even very different, no new moves or anything, plus you can put him down even more easily because you have more health, a bigger devil trigger gauge, and more abilities. There's also Nello Angelo, who turns out to be Dante's brother Virgil, a plot point I completely forgot about after my first playthrough and had to be filled in from other sources. While nothing compared to his fights in 3 and 5, it is kind of fun to jump over his attacks and then million stab from behind. Next boss is Griffin, a giant bird who shoots thunder at you, and I only know his name because he comes back in 5 in a miniaturized form, sounding less like Dark Laser and more like Herb Kazaz. Not much you can do while he's in the air besides shoot at him. Okay, I guess you can use those platforms over there, but I didn't do that in this footage, and even then, I highly doubt a Helmbreaker is worth the effort. But when he lands, it is fun to just wail on him while still avoiding his attacks. Seems someone on the dev team knew I would actually enjoy these boss fights, which is why you have to fight both of them 2 more times later. Virgil gets new attacks each time you face him, but Griffin doesn't really do much to alleviate the redundancy. Fighting him on the ship is at least a little bit different because of the stage layout adding more verticality, but in the Colosseum it's just more annoying because he flies way up higher and it's harder to predict his attacks. Oh, but that's not all. There's also this fuckface who I guess is Nightmare? I don't know, you look at the DMC wiki. So this guy just sits in the middle and fires projectiles at you while you have to navigate through both the shitty-ass fixed camera and the shitty-ass auto lock-on to activate this switch, then you can damage him. Oh, but that's not all! He'll also drag you into his goop, in which you fight a bunch of skulls, and then the Scorpion boss fight again! It's a weakened version, but still, just throw in a boss I killed twice already in the middle of this annoying boss fight. Oh, but don't worry, you fight him again in a later mission, and this time, his goop forces you to fight Griffin. Just what I wanted, a repeated boss battle within a repeated boss battle. And then, because somebody on Team Little Devils was feeling oh so generous, you fight this fucker a third fucking time! And the goop makes you fight Nello Angelo one more time. Oh joy, this totally doesn't ruin Dante's emotional moment where he fights him for the third time and finds out he just killed his own brother. Oh, speaking of which, after defeating Nello for the third time, that Force Edge that's been sitting in your pocket all game evolves into the Devil Sword Sparta. It has the same moveset as Alistair, but with more damage and higher range. Except, you lose Air Hike and Devil Trigger while it's equipped. Jesus fucking Christ, what was the point of having an Air Hike if it was going to be exclusive to a single weapon? And why the fuck should I be excited about losing a fun game mechanic which added strategy of how you approach combat? Well, on the bright side, Sparta does about the same amount of damage as Alistair when in DT. That said, you won't see me use it much in this footage because I actually didn't know about this until after I was done recording. Still though, Devil Trigger is a good mechanic that added to the dynamism and decision making during combat. There was no reason to just arbitrarily take it away. Anyhow, Dante finds himself taking a portal to hell so he can face the final boss, Mundus. This, my friends, remains the best part of the game, dodging projectiles while shooting back. I may be playing a Capcom game, but this is true Sega arcade action. So many people seem to detest the gimmick sections Hideki Kamiya likes to put in his games, with Space Harrier turning into a huge meme among the fandom. Even before Yakuza 0 blue-pilled me, Mission 14 and Bayonetta exposed me to this wonderful gameplay already. If you're a fan of Kamiya's work, I urge you to accept Space Harrier as your lord and savior. Your heart will be enriched, and your life will be more fulfilling. Oh look, now Sparta has a DT gauge. Not only that, but it gives you long-ass fiery waves. Is this supposed to be their excuse for not letting me use it earlier? Maybe, but I don't see why they couldn't just rebalance it so it isn't too overpowered during the main game. Anyway, you beat him up one more time in the sewer, Space Harrier the heck out of there, and the game is done. Oh yeah, you do unlock hard mode, but I'm sorry, I don't feel up for it. What's really annoying is that you can't do New Game Plus on normal until after you've beaten it on hard. Like, what kind of dumbass game design is that? Why not let me go back and master the normal difficulty before playing it on hard mode? That's precisely how I got good at Devil May Cry 5. I kept playing Devil Hunter and Human, then I got good at Son of Sparta, and then Dante Must Die. If New Game Plus on normal without beating hard mode first were an option, I would have went back a second time, but I think I'll just call it quits for now. Well, I definitely understood, appreciated, and enjoyed the game a lot better on that second playthrough. Do I like it now, though? Honestly, not really. It's much easier for me to see the appeal this game had back then and still has today, but it's not something I really enjoy going back to. I realize that there's some decent depth here for players willing to go back, unlock everything, experiment, and improve at the game, but if I didn't really enjoy myself much the first go-around, I'm not gonna feel all too tempted to go back for all those extras. I enjoyed the fuck out of DMC5, and that just made me want more, and unfortunately I don't get that out of this game. Even so, I'm glad I gave it another chance. Now, do I recommend playing this game in order to catch up on the story? Well, unless you're like me and you gotta be filled in firsthand, not really. I mean, I can summarize the entire story in a few sentences. Oh, don't believe me? Here you go. Trish asks Dante to go to Malay Island to go kill Mundus. He goes to Malay Island, kills this Nello Angelo guy who turns out to be his brother, finds out Trish was created by Mundus using his mom's DNA, and then they both kill Mundus and escape. That's about it. And you know what? I think my retelling of it is better than the game's. Not because the game has bad storytelling, but because the audio mixing.
I only take special...
What? Speak up, woman! I can't hear you! On top of that, Dante's signature cocky, laid-back attitude is quite subdued in this game. He isn't DMC 2 levels of dull, but not the crazy motherfucker Itsuno turned him into. Speaking of changes between Kamiya and Itsuno Dante, am I the only one who was really bugged by how whitewashed Dante is after being so brown in the first two games? I mean, as a brown lady, I'm kinda starving for some representation in games. I still like Dante, but it's a bit awkward knowing that he was originally much darker skinned than he's shown nowadays. Though I guess it's a lot better than Trish doing blackface in DMC4. While I do think this game is very skippable for the casual fan who just wants to be acquainted with the universe and be brought up to speed on the lore, I do recommend it to enthusiasts who want to see where this genre evolved from, retro game fans who want to play something more archaic, or just anyone who's curious or thinks the game looks fun despite it all. This game has plenty of die-hard fans, and I don't think most of them would disagree with a lot of my complaints, but they love the game anyway because the really good parts greatly outshine the parts they don't like. While it didn't really pan out for me, I still think that anyone who likes action games at least owes this game a chance. It's a very humble beginning, but one that paved the way for a plethora of wonderful titles that would build upon its foundation. If you liked this video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit the comments to tell me how Space Harrier made your life better.